How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here. Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer Radio, February 20, 2020, figure4online.com/wrestlingobserver.com. The 77th birthday of Antonio Inoki here today. And on that note...
I actually just saw Antonio Inoki like the minute you called, or about 2 minutes before you called. I was actually watching the Tiger Hattori retirement ceremony, which was from earlier today on the New Japan show from Korakuen Hall, and they had a tape. He was not there live. I don't think that they really want him in public live because his health is not good, and I think that he's got a lot of issues right now. So, but they did send in a taped message from Antonio Inoki, and they did have Riki Choshu was there. Who actually, like, Riki Choshu moved really good for, being like 67 and being, all those years of amateur and pro wrestling. You would think he'd be like, working that New Japan style. You think that, like, he'd be thrashed. He's moving around like facially he looked very old. I think Riki Choshu would be 67. Maybe, yeah, I think 67. No, wait. Maybe 68 even. He was there. Keiji Muto was there. Great Kabuki was there. Great Kabuki did look very old. And Tenryu was there via tape as well, and then everyone else was there. It was really a pretty cool ceremony. So yeah, that was kind of the highlight. And so tonight, actually in just like a couple hours, they're going to have the Shingo Takagi and Never Championship match with Tomohiro Ishii, which is probably going to be like one of the most incredible matches of the year. And so they kind of do the prelude, so they had it was a 6-man tag. It was Okada, Ishii, and Goto against Naito, Sonata, and Shingo. So Shingo and Ishii were like kind of focal points of the match. And these guys, they're doing this singles match where they're going to kill each other in a couple hours. And then, like, on the show earlier today, they were killing each other. I was thinking, like, what are you guys doing? You can save the killing for another day and just go in there and just do some cool spots. You know what I mean? You don't have to, like, kill each other. But they did not listen to reason, and they were out there. I don't know, man. I don't know how Ishii does it, but I guess he's probably going to be paying the price someday for this because he already is. But somehow he's like another Terry Funk. It's like he goes out there and he walks through the ring and you just go like, this guy is so destroyed. And then the bell rings and it's like all of a sudden he reverts back to being like 30 years old and just, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so that was the deal there. But yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask about a TV update.
Yeah, they're in negotiations for TV in the United States right now, which is interesting. Earlier today, you had asked me about the this is wonderful, the access thing, and yeah, they did not sue Access TV, even though they had a year left on their contract when Access canceled them, because when that was kind of like a thing, because like New Japan knew that when this contract was over, which was going to be at the end of 2020, that they were going to have to get new TV, but they weren't like in a rush because it was like, we got a year, you know what I mean, to find somebody. So then they get canceled a year early. Legacy Fighting sued Access because they were canceled early, but New Japan did not. So, yeah. So I guess the big things is, they're in talks. I don't know. I would not think that I would call the talks very preliminary, but they are in them. And also, they are going to do a show in London this year. After the plan was not to do any shows outside of the United States and Japan this year and concentrate on building up the U.S. market. And now the plan is to, I don't know how much in London, but definitely do a major show similar to the to the Garden Show. Maybe not as big as the Garden Show, because the Garden Show is probably kind of considered their biggest show of the year outside the Tokyo Dome. But a show similar to Royal Quest last year. Maybe they'll call it Royal Quest 2. Probably at the Copper Box Arena. So they are going to do that. It'll be in later in the year. So they're going to at least one show in the UK after all.
All right, so we got some RAW and XFL ratings notes. RAW did a good number, but then it collapsed in that third hour.
Yeah, the second to third hour drop was the second biggest. The first to third hour drop was, I believe, the seventh biggest of all time. But the second to third hour drop, the first 2 hours did great, and then it collapsed, with the Seth Rollins promo, as a matter of fact. What a shock, huh?
It was a Seth Rollins promo, and I remember sitting there when he started to come out to talk, and I was not only bored to tears, but I actually tweeted, what is the main event of this show? And, to me as a fan, if I've watched 2 hours of Raw and I'm starting to zone out, and I don't even know what the main event is, and it hasn't even been announced, what am I staying for? They did announce it, but I had to sit through a sermon for them to tell me what the main event of the show was.
Yeah. So it was the highest rated show so far this year. Well, we're only in February, but still, since December 30th. Obviously, it beat every show during football season, but that's supposed to happen. The first hour was the best first hour since September 30th, which I think that was the show Flair and Hogan was on. I'd have to look that up. But the second to third hour drop was the second biggest in history. The biggest was 2 years ago on this same weekend. But that's very easily explained because it was a show that was built all around The Rock, and The Rock was in the second hour. So they had a big first hour and a big second hour, and then The Rock left, and then they had the biggest drop. They dropped 20% from hour 2 to hour 3. This one was only 19% from hour 2 to hour 3, so it's second biggest ever. So basically just every segment except for the let me think. The main event actually did gain to a degree by the end. So it wasn't a complete drop all the way, but it dropped. It dropped significantly. Through that second hour, every segment, the Ricochet Anderson match, the 6-man tag, the sermon, did the Natalia Kairi Sane match as well. Really, they dropped. The Lashley tag match dropped. So the big segments that carried the show. It actually was not. I thought that the Orton Matt Hardy thing would be the high point, and it was at the end, but it was not through the bulk of it was actually the Aleister Black, Eric Rowan match, and the Drew McIntyre stuff with Paul Heyman and MVP. Those were the two strongest segments of the show. But yeah, so it's some good, some bad. The younger audience under 35 was way up. Over 35, not so much. And overall 18 to 49 was actually down from last week, believe it or not, even though the overall number was up. So, but yeah, so it's good news. The first 2 hours did great, and then the third hour did terrible.
SmackDown, we've got the Bellas appearing. They're going to the Hall of Fame this year, both pregnant.
Yep.
And also an 8-man tag. It is the New Day and the Usos against Miz, Morrison, Ziggler, and Robert Roode.
Yeah.
Cool. That's the lineup.
And then also Naomi and Carmella, with the winner getting a title shot at on the pay-per-view on a week from Thursday on the Super Showdown pay-per-view against Bayley.
Yes. And there will be a sit-down interview with Lacey Evans. Got to make sure we mention that.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Cool.
So that's SmackDown. And
so I wonder. So do you think they're building up Lacey? I think if they were building up Lacey Evans for WrestleMania, they wouldn't have done that program already. But who knows? And maybe it's Naomi for WrestleMania. I don't know. I had thought it was Naomi.
What do we have this weekend?
What do we got this weekend? We got a UFC, which is from Auckland, New Zealand, I believe. It's Paul Felder and Dan Hooker, which is actually a pretty good match, but pretty much not a big show overall. Let me look at what else we got on that one. Yeah, from Auckland, New Zealand, Paul Felder and Dan Hooker, Jimmy Crude against Mikhail Oleg, I can't even pronounce his name, Oleg Sajak, and Karolina Kowalkiewicz against Jan Zionan. So a lot of, Jake Matthews is on the show, as he always is on the Australia, New Zealand shows. Angela Hill's on the show. Kai Kara France against Tyson Nam. You know, definitely a show you can skip. Saturday night is going to be the Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder fight. So the first time these guys fought, which was in 2018, it was a really interesting fight because, there's intrigue because they're, you know, two of the three big name heavyweight boxers, the other being Anthony Joshua. And Deontay Wilder is not really what I would call a good boxer. He's very awkward looking. He looks very amateurish, but he's probably the hardest hitter since George Foreman, if not the hardest hitter ever. Tyson Fury is an amazingly great boxer for a guy who's, you know, probably 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", 265-ish. I mean, he's really gifted as a boxer. So in their first fight, Tyson Fury was winning most of the rounds, but Deontay Wilder, I think, put him down a couple of times. And I think it was the second time he put him down, it was like, there's no way Tyson Fury's getting up. And he got up. It was like almost like an Undertaker thing where it's just like, there's no way. But he did. And the fight ended up being a draw. So that's why we've got this rematch. So, you would think, although it did go to decision last time, you would think if it goes to a decision that Wilder would probably win enough rounds to win the fight. But that Fury would win enough rounds to win the fight. But Wilder had a real hard time hitting Fury in the first fight because Fury is so superior as a boxer. But he did hit him a few times, and when he did, he hurt him. And it was actually quite a compelling first fight. So the interesting thing is the first fight did 325,000 buys on pay-per-view. And do you know what Bob Arum predicted that this fight's going to do?
Oh, God. Bob Arum?
Yeah.
4 million.
4.6 million.
How about that?
From 325,000. I don't know that that's actually going to happen. Others are thinking, but the general feeling, because it's, ESPN and, Fox, or ESPN, Showtime, all, there's a lot of cross promotion in this one. So there's kind of a feeling that because of all of that it'll probably do pretty well. See what else is there this weekend. New Japan's got all the shows. They're knocking Ishii retirements this weekend. Ishii and Shingo Takagi is, of course, in a couple of hours. I don't think that there's... I'm trying to think what else is going on as far as big shows. I mean, there's nothing really big from Impact's doing a show, with, I think it's Tessa Blanchard and Ace Austin. And on their Impact Plus streaming service, Ring of Honor isn't running this weekend. They're running the weekend after. And I think that Dragon Gate's big shows are the weekend after. So, of course, you're in Mexico every Friday night. So, yeah, the big one is the boxing match for sure, which is, probably going to be one of the bigger fights of the year.
All right, which of these shows last night?
Well, Jesus Christ. The Dynamite AEW was fantastic. I thought it was the best of the last 3 weeks, and I thought the last 3 weeks have all been strong. But this show was special. It was just, one of the best shows that they've ever done. I mean, the best TVs. I thought that NXT was Like, there was the wrestling in a lot of cases was good. I couldn't. It just felt, I mean, it was going to be tough because I watched the Revolution Pro show first, which I thought was going to ruin me for Dynamite, but in fact it did not, because the last two matches on the Revolution Pro show, which was the Michael Oku and Phantasmo and then Ospreay and Zack, which I had seen before, but the first time I saw it I kept getting interrupted, so I knew it was fantastic, but this time it was like I'm watching it, no one's interrupting me, even though I almost got interrupted. But and then the interview that Will Ospreay did, which was going to be one of the best interviews of this entire year, but it was only the second best that I saw today. And then the AEW show was just fantastic afterwards. And then NXT just, the crowd was tired. I even heard from people who were there, and they said this crowd was just tired. It's kind of hit the wall. Maybe, most weeks they're really good, and they started off strong, but I don't know if the Leo Rush Jordan Devlin match went too long, and they're still not in Jordan Devlin yet. I mean, it was a well wrestled match, but it wasn't that exciting, and the crowd wasn't that into it. And then it never was, it just was never that hot. I thought the show just couldn't follow watching AEW or anything. It was, I don't want to say weak, because it was better than weak. It was good by normal standards, but I would say it was not good by NXT standards. There was nothing, and the main event, I don't know how to explain the main event. Velveteen Dream was not good at all. I thought he was, and to not be good with Roderick Strong takes a lot. He just had a bad night. He's just rusty, I think, because he was rusty when he did the run-in too. But the storyline behind it, I don't know, like, who was watching old tapes and said, "Oh man, look at Rick Rude! What a great gimmick! Let's put it on a babyface." Forgetting that Rick Rude was like, the best heel of that period. It's like, who was the babyface in that match? Like, Roderick Strong was the babyface, but he was working as the heel. Velveteen Dream was even doing stalling and stuff like that, but he was clearly supposed to be the babyface, but in the storyline, he's like a ridiculous heel. So the whole thing, and the work wasn't good, so it was basically a long mess. That's how I would describe the main event.
All right, so this AEW show opened up with the Battle Royal, Tag Team Battle Royal. The winners become number one contender for the show next Saturday night.
Before, I want to mention something. After the show ended...
we'll talk about it.
Well, okay, I want to bring this up before I forget, because I'll probably forget. Cody did a... You're going
to forget this Cody interview?
Well, no, I might forget what I'm supposed to say. But anyway, so Cody did an interview, and it was incredible. I mean, it was just, the gist of the interview was that it was like 2 blocks away on Baker Street where he fell in love with pro wrestling. He said he was like 8 years old. He went to a show with his father. So you got to go to the timeline when Cody's 8. This is like 1993. So Dusty's already retired. And, he mentioned, it's like, I never saw my father in his prime. I mean, I just didn't know anything about it. He goes, I knew my dad was famous, but I didn't really get it. And so anyway, he's there, and it's I guess it would be, the parking lot of the old Omni, which is where the building that they were in tonight, the State Farm Arena, is basically located where the old Omni is. So anyway, where the wrestlers would come out and all the fans were there, and he said he was sitting there, and Sting came out and everyone's going crazy. And then his father stayed in the truck, and then after Sting left, I guess his father came out and everyone went crazy, and this is the first time he'd ever seen like his father around wrestling fans. And even though Dusty had already retired, obviously, Dusty was very, very popular, and he saw that, and it was like, I guess he kind of wanted to be famous, and he kind of wanted to be a wrestler at that point, and he was just talking about how that was where he started his love for wrestling, and he thanked everyone, and he was kind of crying, and it was incredible promo. This did not air on television. I know that this will not air on, you could watch it right now. It's AEW released it right away because it was so good, but, and he made a comment about, somebody asked him before the thing, and it's kind of like, it's your hometown. Are you going to jump off the cage? And it's like, by God, it's my hometown. Of course I'm jumping off the cage, which was quite something as well. But they didn't put Marco Stunt singing on AEW, which they should have. And they should open up the show next week with this promo. I know they won't, but they should, because it's just simply too good not to air on television. So I just wanted to say that.
So it's Tag Team Battle Royal. Winners get a shot at the titles next Saturday. And this Battle Royal was awesome. I don't care what anybody says.
It was really good. It was very well.
They've done Battle Royals before, and I've had to hear people tell me that, in fact, it wasn't a good Battle Royal, but this was a great Battle Royal.
Well, the thing with them with Battle Royals is that, like, WWE, like for Royal Rumble, will plan things out very intricately. But most of the times, if you watch a television Battle Royal, it just kind of go in there. This is your number to go out. Go mess around. You can tell there's not a lot of thought put into it. And with AEW, even the Battle Royals people didn't like, I liked them because every single elimination had a story to it. And it's like, I like the story, and I could read the stories, because it was like when I was a kid watching the Roy Shire Battle Royal, it was like, it wasn't about just the winner. It was like everything was thought up in great detail. Eliminations would lead to future programs, future feuds. There was a reason for everything. And when they did their casino battle royals, both for the men and the women, in those cases, you could see how much thought was put into it, even if some of the guys, some of the spots might have been silly and this and that. But this was another example in the sense of, you could watch this thing and go, this isn't just something thrown together. This is something where they put a lot of thought into a lot of these eliminations. They told the story. Like everyone knew that the Young Bucks were going to win deep down. You knew it. I mean, if any other finish would have been like I'm watching this thing going like, if they do something where they put somebody else over to kind of like delay the Young Bucks winning to fool everyone, I'm going to really be upset, because everything has been done to promote the Young Bucks against Page and Omega for the pay-per-view. So one of the first things normally in the Tag Team Battle Royal, the rule is that if the member of your team is eliminated, you're both gone. And instead they did, and they also do this with their cage match too. They have their own, they're not following WWE rules. They're doing their own cage match rules, thank God. And then in the Tag Team Battle Royal, you have to eliminate both guys, not just one. So Nick Jackson got eliminated early. So it's kind of like, but Matt is still in there. And basically the story was, Matt's going in there alone, and there were a lot of these teams that were together, including Santana and Ortiz right until the end. And, but yeah, there was a lot of different stuff. They set up that spot with, was it Luchasaurus and, who was the guy with Luchasaurus that was in there? The big guy, the big spot.
Well, let's go back a little bit. So first off, they do this spot where the Dark Order is in there, and there's a distraction, and one of the Dark Order creeps cuts his promo and just says, Chris Daniels isn't here, look at that. And SCU is distracted, they get dumped. So the Dark Order guys in the Battle Royal, they then get dumped, and there's this big brawl out in the crowd. SCU dives over the barricade, they're going after him.
By the way, you know who was in...
I'm getting to that. Sitting there in the crowd in the middle of this brawl is Raven.
Yeah.
He's just sitting there.
Yep.
And they don't call any attention to him. There's zero mention made of him. And of course, in a promo, they said that the Exalted One will be here soon. And there's Raven just sitting there watching. So, they're throwing out these little things. I don't think that Raven's going to end up being the Exalted One, but it was funny that he's just sitting there watching.
Yeah.
And they made no mention of it whatsoever. So they gave a Dark Order match to Shima after he got eliminated. They had the Lucha Express running wild until they got distracted by the Bunny. And Butcher and Luchasaurus have this big battle. And two big dudes pounding on each other. Santana Ortiz toss out.
The crowd was really into a lot of it. And the Luchasaurus and Butcher segment, they were really into. It wasn't... I didn't think it was the greatest, but some of it was pretty cool. But the crowd loved it all.
So Luchasaurus gets tossed after everybody gangs up on him and throws him out, and the people hated that. We got Orange Cassidy playing Otis. Trent got tossed, landed on Orange Cassidy, and Orange helps him get back into the ring. We got Butcher, Blade, Trent, and Santana and Ortiz. So basically, Santana and Ortiz is a team, then three individuals, because everyone else was eliminated. They're the last ones in there.
Matt, too.
Trent and Matt did this big hug.
Yeah.
Got a big pop. Bunny gives Orange a low blow. Trent gets eliminated. Matt spears Butcher off the apron through the middle rope, so he's not eliminated.
But Butcher is.
Butcher is. So he ends up left alone. It's Matt, Santana, and Ortiz. And Sammy Guevara trips up Matt. Private Party's him with a street sweeper. They toss him, but he lands on the apron.
No, Santana Ortiz did the street sweeper.
Yep. So this, yes. So
he said Private Party. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Proud and Powerful. Hit him with the street sweeper. They toss him. He lands on the apron. Matt super kicks Ortiz off the apron. Sammy tries to come off the top. Matt kills this dude with like the greatest super kick you ever saw in his life. Thought this guy was dead.
That was like Shelton Benjamin and Shawn Michaels.
Oh, this is people get mad. This was better.
You can't say it. You can't say.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now. If you watch it, people, this one was better.
It was better. It really was better.
He killed this dude. Sammy's dead.
It was so incredible.
He tosses Santana. He wins the match by himself. So it's the Young Bucks versus, well, the winners of the match later on, which ends up being Kenny Omega and the Hangman. So that's the pay-per-view match. This Battle Royal was great. Great Battle Royal.
And it was the third best match on the show.
We had Chris Statlander and Shanna.
Maybe the fourth. Probably third.
Chris Statlander and Shanna. Britt Baker doing commentary. And she's very low-key. They're talking about Statlander being an alien, and Britt's just baffled. Doesn't understand
I'm baffled,
it.
too.
She's no real help.
The alien stuff does not work for me at all.
Tony says, Excalibur, explain this to me.
And he actually does, and Jim Ross got pissed.
Excalibur tries to explain this story, and Jim Ross just pulls the plug on this immediately.
He just cuts him off. And just
I don't want to hear any more, he says.
It's just like, this is too much. And I was thinking the same thing as he's explaining it. It's like, if you got to go to this lengths, it's like, this is just like, she doesn't need to be an alien. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever. It's like, I think it weakens everything, honestly, because it makes her into a freaking cartoon. Even though some of this, I have seen some of the stuff they do like on BTE with her as an alien that I actually think is really funny, but that, BTE is different. You can get away with that, but on the show when she's doing this, like the big thing is like she's touching the nose like E.T. or something. And, I mean, it's silly and campy and all that, but I think if you do it like very subtly every now and then, maybe it's okay. But they do so much of it that it's too silly for me.
Chris won Big Bang Theory. That was the end of that. It was okay. We had clips of Nyla winning the title, and then Nyla does a promo with Tony, and she yells at the people.
She got a lot of heat.
And says, "This belt is justice. I should have been the first champion. Waiting made me hungry. When I get hungry, I break bitches. I broke Riho, cut her strings." She says, her courage got her nowhere. "I'm the queen bee in this hive. I will be a one-time champion because nobody will ever beat me." It's actually a pretty good promo. Then Statlander came out and they had a stare down. With Big Swole. There's three of them.
Big Swole came out and they had a three-way pull apart. So I'm guessing that they'll do Statlander and Swole maybe next week with the winner against Nyla on the pay-per-view. Or maybe a three-way. I don't know. I'll ask. Well, I mean, I won't. It'll be clear. It'll be clear by next week what they're going to do.
Promo was good. The three-way stuff was not very good.
It was.
They looked at each other and security came out. It wasn't even a pull apart. It was like Swole came out and yelled at her, and then security just dragged everyone away.
Yeah, well, Swole did try to break free and stuff, but She started a little rough on the promo, but by the end, she was pretty comfortable and pretty good, yeah.
Moxley versus Jeff Cobb. So
really good.
Jericho came out with Jake Hager and Sammy.
With tickets.
And at
so
first,
front row.
like when I first saw this, I was actually kind of mad because Sammy had been killed so dead by that super kick. And here he is like 10 minutes later and he's dancing and all happy. I was like, what? How is he out here? But then, by the time the segment was over, it was very clear why he was out here.
Well, he had to be.
So he's there. They got tickets. Fans sing Jericho's song. Taz is out there doing commentary. So Jeff Cobb beats the hell out of Jon Moxley for like the entire match. He just pounds him. He suplexes him. He clotheslines him. He suplexes him. He just beats the hell out of him. Every time Moxley tried to make a comeback, he just got killed. Big suplex outside. And finally, he goes up top, hits a big superplex. Moxley hooks him in the small package, and he pins him.
The Dynamite Kid, Randy Savage finish.
Yep. And this was not like a match of the year or anything, but my guess is that the
really
moment this match was over, like everybody from every company was calling Jeff Cobb. So
I'm sure they were all week.
Yes.
Before this match. Yeah, he
it's a great showing.
Yeah. They want him. You know, I mean, that's not a secret. They wanted him. They've wanted him ever since his contract with Ring of Honor expired. So, but he wants to be, or at least he wanted to be a free agent. Wants to be free to work New Japan whenever he can. That was his goal. We'll see what happens. You know, he'll be fielding offers, and we'll see what decisions he makes.
So the Inner Circle hits the ring to attack Moxley. Dustin hits the ring to make the save. He gets beaten down. The lights go out. And Darby Allin makes his return. This place went absolutely crazy for this guy. And he runs down. Actually, he skateboards down. Hits the ring. Starts hitting everybody with his board. Moxley hits a DDT. Lays out Jeff Cobb. Darby goes after Sammy outside. So they're setting up that match for the pay-per-view, so that's why Sammy had to be there. Jericho brawls with Moxley, but Moxley sends him packing. And overall, from the moment this match started to the end, this segment was awesome.
Man, I'm doing terrible.
You alive over there?
Yeah, you know, I feel great, but man, this cough is just brutal. Everyone in this house is coughing. It's just like a disaster. I'm not getting better. So, as far as the cough, I feel better, but frickin' this cough is just, it's bad today.
Lucha Brothers versus Hangman, Kenny Omega for the tag team titles. You'll be surprised to hear that this match was awesome.
This match was super. I think that this would be, it's not the best tag match in the history of the promotion because there's that TLC match with the Young Bucks and Pentagon and Phoenix was better. But I would say that on Dynamite, as far as a match on Dynamite, singles or tag maybe, this may have been the best match on Dynamite to date. This one or the Phoenix Nick Jackson match might be the other one but this match was, you know, they've had some real good ones, but Phoenix was just running wild. Everybody was really. This was a really great match.
All these great spots, breaks down into the four-way. Omega hits a Snapdragon on Pentagon. V-Trigger on Phoenix is coming off the top. Tiger Driver 98. Phoenix kicks out. And then Hangman and Omega hit the Buckshot V-Trigger combo on Phoenix. They get the pin. So it is Omega Hangman versus Young Bucks at the pay-per-view. The Bucks come out. They actually have a tug-of-war with Kenny Omega. And then Hangman just gives up on the tug-of-war to go start chugging beers. And, yeah, just every crazy spot you can think of. Some of this stuff was just incredible. There was one spot where Omega accidentally tossed Hangman into a cutter by Phoenix. He goes to check on him. Pentagon flies in with a destroyer on Omega.
He jumped off. He jumped off somebody's. He was off Paige's back. He jumped off somebody's back into the Canadian destroyer on Omega. That was incredible.
So anyway, this match was great. We had clips of Dana Massey, various WWE or AEW stars getting their new action figures. Everybody was so excited.
This was really good. I thought this commercial was so good because I've never seen a commercial. Usually when you do a commercial with celebrities, they try to come off as stars as opposed to real people. And this one, it was like the whole gimmick of the commercial was that, even like with Jericho, but like it's like, oh my God, I have my own action figure. It's like they're real people. It's an interesting marketing concept. It's like we're real people, that grew up, playing with WWE action figures, and we actually have our own action figure now. And I mean, especially like the Young Bucks and Cody and Brandy, really were like selling it big. Omega was pretty much, I mean, Jericho can't because he's had a million action figures over the course of his career, but I just thought that the way they did this commercial made everybody so endearing. It's like a really interesting concept of, it's what they were when the thing started, and they kind of, I don't want to say lost sight of it, but they lost some of it because you can't do what they did before, where you're doing the meet and greets and everything like that, because, I mean, you can do a meet and greet, at the show when you got 500 people there or 700 people there, and it takes all day, but you can do it. But when you got 5,000 people there, or 10,000 people or whatever, even 3,000 people, you simply can't do it. So that aspect of those guys, which is one of the things that got those guys over, especially the Young Bucks and Cody in particular, that's what really got them over. Yet they haven't been able to do this year. And this was like, it's not the same thing, but this was kind of like bringing them back to where they were before, people saw them as TV stars, so to speak. So I thought, I liked the idea that the commercial was to me so much stronger than a usual wrestling action figure commercial.
So the main event's Wardlow, Cody in a cage match. They've got this giant cage. And the rules in AEW are, it's not escape the cage. You beat this guy. So there was a spot at one point where Wardlow just beats the hell out of this guy. It's a big man, little man match, and he throws him into the door flies open. I don't know why the door wasn't locked, but that's another matter entirely. Door flies open.
Because they had to do that spot.
That's not my point. Like, lock the door. They throw him into the door flies open.
They need an excuse to do the spot, and that's what they had to do, is keep the door unlocked.
So Cody's laying there halfway out.
Creative license.
That's how they explain it to us, that there's no escape the cage rules. So he's laying there, and MJF comes up, and Arn's there, and MJF says, slam the door on Cody's head. You want to do it. And Arn holds onto the door, and he looks at Cody, and he looks at the door, and he's teasing like he's going to slam the door on Cody, but instead he swings the door in MJF's head, and MJF goes flying. So Wardlow starts hitting all these moves. Top rope senton. Cody kicks out. MJF is furious.
It was a real good showing for Wardlow in his debut. I mean, really, it's like there was if he had a bad match, it could have been, you know what I mean? It could have been real flat, and he didn't. He more than carried his end. You knew Cody would be strong in it, but Wardlow's he's very agile for a guy of his size. And they actually had shown some clips during the week of him training and doing this 5.5 foot, I don't know if it was really 5.5 foot, but it looked like it probably was, box jump, which is just like, how the hell do you do a 5.5 foot? I'm sure there's NBA players who can do it, but this guy's like 6'3" and 265. But anyway, this guy's very athletic.
So he misses this senton, and MJF is furious. Or he what was it? He hits the senton, and Cody kicks out. So MJF's mad about the kick out. So he hands the ring to Wardlow, but unfortunately for Wardlow, Cody gets a hold of the ring. Now MJF is furious. He starts to climb the cage, but Brandy shows up, hits him with 2 chair shots. He barely sells it. He comes down. He gets in her face. He acts like he's going to hit her. And Arn grabs him and he throws MJF into the crowd. It's the second time MJF's taken a bump here, been foiled. So in the ring, Cody hits a crossroads. Wardlow kicks out. Cody then looks up at the top of this cage. And this is a big fucking cage. And he climbs and he climbs and he climbs. And I think, this is my interpretation, I think that as he was climbing, he realized how high this was, and so he didn't get up there and think about it. Like, he climbed and he stood and he just jumped. Like, there was no thinking. It was just, I just got to do this. And he jumped off this thing.
Once you start climbing, you got no choice.
He did this big moonsault. He hit it. He covers. He gets the pin. He seemed fine afterwards. But, like, doing a moonsault off a cage that high, that's what screwed up Kurt Angle really bad. So, hopefully he's actually fine.
That was really high. I mean, like, that was like twice as high as the famous Jimmy Snuka one.
It was so high that on the way down, like, he started to rotate. He started to twist. And so he landed more. He didn't land, like, flat on his belly. He landed kind of a little bit on one side on his knee. And I was like, oh, my God,
well, it was supposed to be a body block. It wasn't supposed to be a flat moonsault. I mean, because Wardlow was standing there to catch him. So it was supposed to be like a, and I mean, he did the best he could, but when a guy's coming from that height, it's like you really don't. I don't know. He blocked a little bit of it, but he didn't block a lot of it. It was definitely scary on the way down. I was watching, kind of like, oh, this could be bad. It really could.
So I think there may have been. I don't know if there was a timing issue for sure, but like, he gets this pin. And he's on his feet 2 seconds later, and 3 seconds later, he's back on top of the cage again. And he's screaming at MJF, and MJF is on the ramp, and he's looking all terrified because every one of his plans has been foiled, and now he must face this man at the pay-per-view. And I should note that there's a spot where Wardlow throws Cody in the cage. Cody's just bleeding everywhere.
Cody's bleeding all like crazy.
Blood in his hair, all down his face.
We had a lot of blood on television, which was interesting that... obviously they had to clear that ahead of time, and TNT is very much behind these guys for obvious reasons, and they know that they're kind of underdogs in some ways, and they're giving them a lot of leeway because they know they're in a fight.
So after the show goes off the air, it's up on Twitter. I retweeted it. There is in fact a Cody promo, and it's everything Dave said. He's sitting there. He's covered in blood. He starts crying halfway through. They cut to the crowd. This grown man sitting there on the like by the ramp. I mean, he's crying. He looks into the camera, tears in his eyes. He gives a thumbs up. I'm just watching this going, look at this dude. Like, I got to watch this idiot Seth Rollins. God bless the guy. But he's on TV telling me that, the fans are going to turn on you. You just can't be a good guy. They're just going to... And I'm thinking,
that's not true.
They ain't turning on Cody. You know why they turn on these guys in WWE? Because they can't book a babyface. This is a white bread, white meat babyface, pure babyface in 2020. Not like this Velveteen Dream, but like a real babyface. He's got fans crying. He's got them so invested.
I hope he doesn't go heel anytime soon.
I don't know if it'll be soon, but I mean, I think ultimately it'll probably happen.
Ultimately,
at some point,
I would expect that he will, just because that's the nature.
But anytime soon would be madness, I think.
I mean, you never know about the future. I mean, if the crowd is willing to do it, or that you have the right angle to do it, fine. But to do it. When he's a hot baby face, kind of like the Steve Austin thing, not good. So hopefully,
dude, if Cody's thinking about turning babyface or turning heel anytime soon, I think he just needs to like watch his own television for the last month, and he'd realize how absolutely preposterous that would be to turn right now.
He absolutely shouldn't. But they're not that married up to babyface and heel, because it was like, when Jim Ross was asking like, who are the fans going to cheer for between like the Young Bucks against Page and Omega, and you know what? I mean. But
that's different. Those guys are all baby faces.
But I mean, the whole thing
there's no question whatsoever who the baby face and I know you say that, but like, I always know who the baby face and heels are. Always on this show. There's never a question.
The Young Bucks against Omega and Page. They're both.
Yeah, they're both baby face teams.
They're both going to go in as baby faces, but they're going to work. They're going to work a lot of ambiguity spots, I'm sure.
Yeah, but they're baby faces. There's a difference between ambiguity spots and being a baby face and heel. Like, there are baby faces and heels in AEW.
Yeah, but they can. I mean, look, when the Young Bucks wrestled Cody and Dustin, well, Cody was a heel against Dustin, if in the way that match was booked, but he was also a baby face at the same time. So, Yeah, every situation's different. I mean, Cody's not married to heels and baby faces. It's just whatever it is. And it's like in that match, in that tag match, I don't think that they're sitting there like with Vince. If they're in there, they're going like, well, who are the fans? And JR with that mentality, like, who are the fans going to cheer for? I don't know that they, you know what? I don't think it even matters. It's like, let the fans can cheer for whoever they want. Tell your story. And if they all cheer for Omega and Page because of Page, or Omega for that matter, fine. If they're split, fine. I mean, I know they're not going to boo Page. They're probably not going to boo Omega. They may not boo the Young Bucks, but they may boo the Young Bucks. But whatever, we'll find out that night in Chicago, and work the match. Whatever the story of the match is going to be the story of the match.
NXT opens with Adam Cole coming out for his victory promo, and they're doing this promo, and out comes Velveteen Dream, his voice on the screen. And for those of you not paying attention, like, Velveteen is wearing tights with Roddy's wife and child on them, airbrushed on them.
The Rick Rude stuff.
He did this thing on Twitter where I don't remember exactly what he said. It was something like, Roddy's not a real man because he couldn't convince his wife to take his last name or something.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said. This dude's a baby face.
Yeah, because if you're not a real man because, she didn't take your last name. It's like, jeez.
So this guy is acting like the biggest dick. And then in his promo, he says, can you leave your guys in the back so we can do this one-on-one? I'm just thinking, dude, if I'm Roddy, I got 2 words for you. Fuck off. Like, are you going to ask for that after all you've done? Are you kidding me? And of course, it turns out that Roddy, the fighting babyface, tells his guys, hey, stay in the back. I'll do this by myself. I'm like, who wrote this? This one is out in left field.
Oh, it's because the funny part of the whole thing is Velveteen Dream is supposed to be the babyface.
I know. What is going on with this storyline?
It is like, I cannot believe, and they didn't cheer him hardly at all, and for good reason.
I wonder why.
I know, it's like, this is like absolute babyface sabotage. I mean, I don't know if it's that Patrick doesn't know, and it's his idea, but ultimately it's not his. He's not the booker. Paul Levesque is the booker, and Paul Levesque is way too smart for this. But somehow, there it is. Someone thought this was. I mean, I'm sure that the idea is that they thought, we need something that people will talk about, which they are, and it will cause interest. And we'll see. We'll see what the number is. I mean, that'll be the determining factor. If the number's big, then they guessed right. But my God, still, this guy's not a babyface, even though he's supposed to be the babyface in this feud.
Jordan Devlin, Leo Rush for the Cruiserweight title, and they had a good match. Wasn't blown away by it. It was good.
Well, the 2 problems. Number one is that people are not emotionally invested in the least in Jordan Devlin. They don't know him well enough to go out there and go 20 minutes. And Leo Rush goes from babyface to heel all the time, so they don't know what to make of him either. And it was well wrestled, but the crowd was already tough, and they went too long for this crowd. I mean, I was watching and going like, I just think for television, these guys are not over enough for a match of this length, even though as workers, yeah, I mean Jordan Devlin's fantastic, but the people don't know that, so it kind of is like, I mean, they're booking with the idea that, oh yeah, Jordan Devlin and Leo Rush, 18 minutes, 19 minutes, they're going to just tear the place up. But the people aren't at that level with Jordan Devlin whatsoever, and really aren't with Leo Rush either. But Jordan Devlin needs more time to get people to have an emotional attachment to him before you start booking these long television matches with him.
So Leo hit the middle rope, reverse Hurricane Rana, stunner. Devlin got the ropes. Leo goes up top, misses the frog splash. Devlin hits a headbutt, hits his suplex, and gets the pin.
Back suplex, yeah.
Needs a new finish, immediately.
This is their finish for him. He's really good, but, in time, him doing these matches of this length will work. So, but, this crowd wasn't ready for it, and I don't think the TV crowd's ready for it yet either.
Interview with Dakota and Raquel and some random fella. Raquel says, I wrote every word. This is word for word.
Oh, by the way, so her delivery, I mean, talk about robotic. This was probably the most robotic promo I've seen in a long, long time. I felt sorry for her, you know.
Tegan Nox has gotten every opportunity and pushed Dakota aside. I know what that feels like. I've sat at the Performance Center and watched as other competitors got opportunities before me. At War Games, Dakota was overlooked again by her so-called friends. And because of that, she must stand up for herself. Or something. And because she's chose to stand up for herself, she's the outcast. That's the line. Anyway, this is horrible. It was appalling.
It was bad wording, and, you know, like...
Just let her do a promo.
I know. Even, you know what? Like, that's exactly what I'm saying. Let her do a promo. If it's not good, in time, it'll be fine. But this was just, you know, they should have done like a practice take and then just gone, we can't do this. Because, yeah, this was not good for her for
You know what's funny? There's a lot of people in AEW that have not been doing this that long, and they're getting opportunities to get on live mics, on live television, and it's not like every promo is blowaway, but we have not seen one promo as bad as this. We're starting at a low level, but we keep doing it so we get better. Like, just letting them be themselves, it's already better.
Britt was tough, but Britt's gotten a lot better. Britt Baker was tough at first.
She had like one promo that was tough.
And she had one sit down when she was doing commentary that was very tough.
That's it.
But in time,
let him go out there and just talk.
In time, look at Britt. You know, I mean...
But my point is, it hasn't even been that much time. It was barely any time at all. Yeah. It's not like if you let them go out there and do their promos, like we're going to have a 2-year learning curve. Like, if you let them be themselves, I mean, it's not going to take that long. Well,
not everyone. You know, some people are not going to be good promos. But you know what? Not every promo has to be great, but...
I'd rather some people weren't good promos than everybody not being good promos because they have to read this ridiculous stuff.
But the thing is like Raquel Gonzalez, okay? She is for sure, she might never be a good promo, but she's for sure not going to be this bad if she's not sitting there trying to memorize what she's supposed to say. And that was very clear that she was robotically repeating what someone drummed into her head rather than actually doing a promo. Because even at worst, it would be better than this.
So Regal showed up and he signed Dakota Tegan in a cage in 2 weeks. So nobody can interfere, he says. I would bet good money somebody interferes. We have Austin Theory in the ring. Out comes Tommaso Ciampa. He just starts cutting a promo. And Austin gets in his face and Ciampa says, not tonight, not tonight. So Ciampa starts doing his promo and...
He's about to tell us why Johnny Gargano turned on him because he knows.
He knows.
And then frickin' Austin Theory went and attacked him.
So Ciampa decks him and he starts to go on. He says, if one thing is clear, in order to get my life back, there can be no Johnny Gargano in NXT. So are they doing Loser Leaves Town?
I am checking on that.
We have 2 guys that don't want to go to the main roster in a Loser Leaves Town match.
I certainly, when I heard that promo, thought that they were going to do a Loser Leave Town. That was my, that was the conclusion I would come to based on that. You know, that would be like, you know, okay, this is the end of the feud. But yeah, the problem is with both those guys is like, neither of those guys would be better off on the main roster.
Ciampa did promos saying, I'll quit if they try to pull me up to the main roster, because if I go to the main roster, I'll have maybe a year before my body breaks down.
Well, here's the thing, though. The schedule on the main roster is much, much easier than it was when he did those promos. The problem is that they're never going to push him at the level he's at in NXT, and he won't be happy being just a guy. And Vince won't be able to help himself because he'll start beating him. And then Gargano would be actually, you know, because Gargano's smaller, and Vince will not, you know, no matter how good he is, I can't imagine Vince seeing anything in Gargano. Ciampa at least has the good body to where, but Ciampa's also a lot smaller than people think, because generally speaking, the guys in NXT are a lot smaller than the main roster. Because I remember when Ciampa was brought up with the doctrine that he couldn't lose, and he wrestled Miz, and I think he beat Miz, and it was like, Jesus Christ, Miz is so much bigger than him. And when you watch Miz on the main roster, you don't think of Miz being a big guy, but Miz is probably 6'1". Ciampa's, I don't know, 5'10", 5, you know what I mean? I mean, maybe less. Gargano's small. I mean, he's genuinely a small guy, super, super worker. But, it's not like he's this flashy looking guy that Vince might think, he's small, but, I mean, he's like way smaller than AJ Styles, who, in Vince's mind, AJ's like, I think Vince likes AJ because AJ's, like somebody who is probably like a real athlete and a real tough guy and all that. He was a legit amateur wrestler. He was like a high school football player who was probably really good. He was like a stud athlete that, isn't that big, but overcome it, kind of like a Brian Pillman. But I think he would see with Johnny Gargano, I think he would just see Johnny Gargano as this small guy who's doing pro wrestling, and it'll be tough. I mean, sometimes it works out, but you got to overcome a lot in the odds. I've always thought the odds of Johnny Gargano on the main roster, I never wanted to see him go there because I always thought it was not going to end up very well. And Ciampa even more because I shouldn't say even more, but I think because Ciampa as a character in NXT is really good, and I would hate to see him just go up to the main roster and then, get the 3 weeks, and then Vince is just going like, what was the big deal about this guy?
So Theory goes after Ciampa again. Ciampa destroys him, beats his ass. They're doing a match next week.
Well, that's going to be destruction for Mr. Theory. Theory, it's not his time now anyway. I mean, it will be someday, but it's not right now.
Finn tells us to watch his next move next week. We had Raul Mendoza, Joaquin Wilde versus Grizzled Young Vets. Was just there. Mendoza made a comeback. Vets cut him off. Ticket to Mayhem. 1, 2, 3. And then the Vets cut a promo saying they will be recognized as the world's #1 soon enough.
So they're going to feud with their forgotten sons.
We'll get to that. Broserweights come out to celebrate their tag title win. And Matt Riddle says, "We partied hard on Saturday. I partied hard. Pete partied hard. Unfortunately, the Cup partied too hard and failed. The wellness policy has been suspended for 30 days. Everybody laughs. I guess that's the explanation for no longer having the cup and the golf cart at ringside. So we have the Broserweights versus Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan. And it's fun. They worked very hard. And
crowd not nearly as strong as usual, though.
Burch put a crossface on Riddle. Dunn made the save with a kick. Lorcan ran wild on Dunn. Dunn snapped the fingers. Broserweights hit their Burrow to sleep combo for the pin. And then the babyfaces jumped into the crowd, celebrated with the crowd. I mean, they love Matt Riddle. And
it was a well-wrestled match. Lorcan and Burch are, for enhancement level guys, to put other guys over, they're really good at it. And, Dunn and Riddle are a great team. So, but it was not a great match. It was a good match.
So I'm not sure if this is a babyface turn, but after all these years, the Forgotten Sons...
They're definitely the babyface in this feud because they're the Americans going against
They're defending America against the Grizzled Young Vets.
Yes.
I've been waiting for this for 3 years now.
What? I haven't been waiting for them at all, even though they're good.
Dude, you have 3... I think 2 of them are legit war heroes. Why are they heels? Why should we boo these guys?
Because they were bitter. That was the original
maybe
reason.
if you told us a little about them and what they'd done and did some video packages, they'd actually be over. Because it's not like they're terrible, but they've never done anything where who anybody is except Gunner because he was in TNA.
But the other two guys are good workers.
They're heels for some. I didn't even get it.
Yeah,
they should be baby faces defending America.
In theory, ex-military guys. In theory, sure, yeah.
So Keith Lee comes out. He's about to cut this promo when out comes Kona Reeves, and Keith Lee destroys him. Big Bang Catastrophe gets the pin. Then out comes Dominik Dijakovic. Now, at TakeOver, they had this match. They pulled out all the stops, did all their moves, did their big match. When it's over, they stood in the ring, they looked at each other, they hugged, they raised each other's hands, and it was all over. Now, 3 days later, Dominik Dijakovic comes out and he says, "Sorry, I'm not ready to move on yet."
He wanted a rematch.
Keith is baffled. Dijakovic says, I had you beat, but I hurt my back on the Spanish Fly. That's why I couldn't finish you." Keith says, "We all have excuses. You can say if this happened, whatever, I won. But everywhere we go," and the fans start chanting, "Fight forever." He says, "Well, you didn't win the match, but if they're with it, I'm up for the challenge. You talk to Regal, and we can fight forever." Listen, I don't mind seeing these guys wrestle again, but this was so weird that they, went out of their way to try to tell you on Sunday that this is it, and then it just started over again.
So they're going to do another match.
I guess so.
That's whatever. I mean, I don't care if let them do another match. They're real good with each other. They're probably, put this way, for Dijakovic, it's the best match that he can do. It's the match that will get him over more than anything else because he does better with Keith Lee than he does with anybody else, even though he's a big agile guy. I mean, Keith Lee's going to be over either way. Keith Lee's ready to be a star. He kind of already is. So, but yeah, he'll have a great match with him again. So they'll do it. Should be on TV though. I don't think it should be on the next TakeOver. Although, I guess if you want a killer TakeOver show, I mean that match is pretty much a lock. You go in there and you kind of know what you're getting, and it's going to get over. So, and it's going to be different from every other match on the show.
Kane Carter, Chelsea Green. Carter's getting one near fall after another. Chelsea cuts her off, and all of a sudden Bianca Belair just gets in the ring. And
the match is not over.
She gets a mic and says, "Listen, I'll let you guys finish. Just let me say something." You couldn't wait till the match was over? She says, "Charlotte doesn't go here, but now that she put her hands on me, I want her to go here. I'm going to whip that ass." And she leaves.
So I guess we got Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair on TV in the next week or two.
So the match continues.
It'll either be, I presume it's going to be NXT. It could be on Raw.
I think it should be on NXT. That's the whole point of having Charlotte come in, is to try to pop a rating.
Yeah, I know.
So Stone trips Carter. Chelsea, it's a move that they call the unprettier, but it wasn't unless you totally screwed it up, and she gets a pin. This was a weird segment.
I'll say.
And then we had this baffling main event, Roderick Strong and Velveteen Dream. Velveteen stalling. He's trying to whip him with his weight belt, which is illegal. Roddy finally starts just beating the hell out of this guy. He beats him, he chops him, he works over his back, he puts him in the stronghold. And then Dream makes a comeback. He tears off his tights. He's got another pair with Marina and Roddy's son on the crotch and the ass. Actually, I think it was just Marina.
It's only Marina, yeah.
And so Undisputed could take no more. Screw this guy.
I could take no more.
They run down. Dream dives onto him. He comes off the top. Roddy hits a knee. He goes to hit him with a backbreaker, but Dream hits a Dream Valley driver, and he pins Roddy. Then Undisputed hits the ring. They quadruple team Velveteen. They leave him for dead. I'm still not sure what sympathy I should have for this man as they're quadruple teaming him.
I had no sympathy for him. Plus, it's like, again, how many guys have a lackluster match with Roddy? It wasn't even just that, like, he's a babyface that you can't like because of this ridiculous story, but it's also like, how do you not have a good match with Roddy? And I mean, the guy's got, he's got something that very, very few guys got. He's got like a real natural charisma, but man, he's rusty because he was, I I knew like before I would watch him in matches and you could really see him being carried and stuff, but he looked fine. You know, it's like most people didn't even notice. But here, God, ever since he came back, it's like, you know, I don't know. You know, maybe he just needs time to get his timing back. But this match surprised me, just what a mess it was.
Well, all I know is that on Sunday, I saw one of the best NXT shows I ever saw, and this was a big letdown. This was the weakest NXT show in a long time. And one thing to remember, too, is like in the old days, before it was on USA, they would do a takeover, and like you pretty much could skip the following week's show because it was mostly just a total recap.
It was the recap show, yeah.
It was like a couple of maybe a match or two from the arena before the show, and then just like a bunch of recaps. So they can't do that anymore. Yep. So they actually had to come right back with a show, and it was weak. So
I wonder how much I wonder what kind of a bump they're gonna get coming off of the show. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the rating, you know,
I expect none.
You expect none?
Yeah.
There's also the Democratic debate was tonight too.
I feel like the more viewers you have, the bigger bump you're gonna get. Because the more viewers you have, the more casual fans you have. If you've got 700,000 people watching NXT every week on USA, like those are your hardcores. Like I think they have all probably watched Takeover, or they know everything that happened on the show.
They pushed, you know, again on Monday. They pushed. They had to have 3 or 4 commercial breaks for this thing, and they pushed that, you know, Velveteen Dream Roddy. It wasn't just like generic. Oh, by the way, watch NXT Wednesday. It was very strong on the Roddy Velveteen thing. So it's like they very much pushed the idea of this feud. You know, and it is something that people can sink their teeth into, even though they're
kind of. I mean, they pushed it hard, but like the storyline's ridiculous. I mean, it was.
Well, it's
ridiculous.
It's so backwards that everyone's confused. Yeah.
We'll see what happens tomorrow. I feel based on how the strapping did that this AEW show with the cage match with Wardlow is going to do very well.
I feel that that's the case too. I feel the whole show will do well. I
think this show is going to do better than next week's Go Home show. They did announce the Iron Man match.
Yeah, for sure. Because you had the cage match, and then you had that battle royal, which was an interesting thing. Because next week you got an Iron Man match, but the problem, Iron Man match, that Iron Man match with Kenny Omega and Pac may very well be an absolutely fantastic match. In fact, I would be disappointed if it wasn't even just completely fantastic. But Iron Man matches traditionally are not great ratings matches because they're just not, you know. And then what else? You've got, they haven't announced Swole and Statlander.
Plus, if you're NXT, you should counter-program something against the Iron Man match that's really good because your AEW fans are going to know if we switch channels for 20 minutes at the beginning of this match, we're not going to miss the finish.
We're not going to
miss an Iron Man match. We're going to watch the last 10 minutes.
You see, that's the one thing with the Iron Man match is that we know exactly when the finish is going to be. And we know we've got 25 minutes to 25 to 28 minutes to not worry about it because we'll still get that finish. We know when we're getting the finish. Yeah, that's why, I would rather have a 30-minute draw on television or a 30-minute match as opposed to calling it an Iron Man match and telling you ahead of time that this is how long it's going to go. I mean, as far as for a pay-per-view, yeah, I think that there's an intrigue about an Iron Man match if you do it every now and then. But for television, we'll see. I mean, there's the mentality, too, that it's a different fan base. It's a smarter fan base. And they're going to go in there and go, oh, we're getting 30 minutes of Kenny Omega and Pac. It's going to be really great because... And to some people, that's the case. I don't know. We'll find out how successful that is now. We'll see. We got that, and what other stuff do we got on the show next week? They announced a few things. They announced, hold on, where do we got this?
All right, next week for AEW.
Yes, I don't think
we have got Omega Pac and the Moxley Jericho weigh-in.
The weigh-ins, yeah. That's an interesting one.
And the Butcher and the Blade versus the Best Friends.
Well, that's fine. I guess you get some Orange Cassidy stuff, and it's all right. Yeah, the weigh-in will be very interesting. I would presume that they have some good ideas for it. So, yeah. I like the idea of a weigh-in better than a contract signing because I'm so sick of these contract signings. They're so overdone.
Well, there's no weight limit.
Yeah, but they still do weigh-ins in UFC for the heavyweights.
That's true. Weight can't be over 265. Actually,
no, you can't there. But
you can't.
In wrestling, you can be over 265 because it's unlimited. But I'm not worried. I don't think Jericho's 265, and I know Moxley's not either. So, whatever weight they need to make, I think that they'll be fine. I guess whatever. Jericho's lost weight anyway.
So that's next week, and then that's it. NXT has got their Dakota Kai matches in 2 weeks. They did announce something 2 weeks down the road.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, everybody, you want to wrap it up for today? The New Observer is going to be out tomorrow, everybody. Back issues up on the front page.
XFL.
Oh, that's right, the XFL ratings.
Yeah. So they were down 34%, which is, I would say it's expected. From what I understand, the numbers for both last week and this week were pretty much what everyone was expecting them to be. They're higher than they, the belief of the settled down number is that is like 1,500,000 for the network shows and less on the cable shows. So they're well above it, but there's also the expectation that it will continue to fall because that's just how things are. So, I know some, again, like I was listening to sports radio on Sunday night, and there was, considering that great NBA game, that All-Star game, I was surprised how much XFL's talk I heard, and most of it was on, the idea of how are the ratings going to do, because everyone knows that's the real story, and it's like the reviews are so good, and the games were so good, so why would it go down? Except if you. No ratings. It was going to go down no matter what. That's just the nature of it, and it'll continue to go down. But I think I think that it's going to settle down at a decent number. Right now it's exactly on. It's pretty much on target with what's expected. So I wouldn't be alarmed at the 34% drop. It's what it was going to be. I think it was a little bit more. Even then, I would probably still not be alarmed because it's still above what it need, what you have to kind of get to. I think, if they stay at 1.5 million on Saturday and Sunday afternoons on these networks right now, they'll be in good shape for the long term, as far as when the next deal comes up. If they go below it, maybe not. Yeah.
All right, on that note, we're going to wrap it up, everybody. So check out the front page for more, and that is it. We will talk to you again after a while.